Alright, this is lesson 12 for 8th grade, and today we're talking about decimal numbers, which is also going to include fractions and percents. So not only decimal numbers, but fractions and percents as well, which we have started talking about, and it is review, but it's stuff that we really need to get down, so we're going to spend quite a bit of time on it. And today there are several examples I need to get through, so I'll try to cover those as quickly as possible. Alright. So basically our number system is a base 10 system. There are 10 different digits, and 0 through 9. And the value of each digit depends on the place of its number. Okay? So we have whole numbers to the left of a decimal point, and then fraction places to the right of the decimal point. So we're actually talking about this. This is on page 78 of the math book, and it's very helpful. It's a little blurry, hard to see a little bit. Our decimal point is here, and then to the left we go ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000, millions. Things that we're more used to, more familiar with, probably over here. And we go to the right of the decimal, we're in tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000s. And the thing is those all end in THS, so that's how we decipher between tenths and tens. Also notice that immediately to the right here we're in tenths, immediately to the left we're in ones. So good thing to remember there. Very helpful table on page 78. Okay, the first thing that we need to cover is how to say these decimal numbers. There is a unofficial way to do it and an official way to do it. During class, the students hear me usually refer to numbers in the unofficial way, just to save time, and it's a little more convenient for me to say that. But the official way to do this is to say "and" at the decimal point, and then we read the fraction part to the right of the decimal point, and it's all going to depend on the place value of the last digit, and that'll make more sense when we look at an example such as this one. Alright, so the decimal number 12.05, that's the unofficial way to say it, is read this way officially. 12 and 500ths. Now the reason we say 500ths is because this 5 is in the hundredths place. So 12 and 500ths. If we look at this number right here, 122 and 245 thousandths. So that's all written right here. So the first example that we covered, right here, and we have no devices hooked up right now. What is 4.15 in words? Okay. The students had choices that they could click in. We had 4 and 1/10 500ths, 4.15, or 4 and 1500ths. Well, we should be looking right here, number 3. 4 and 1500ths, because that 5 is in the hundredths place. Alright, what is 3.125 in words? Okay, we should be looking at 3 and 125 thousandths. That would be this choice right here, number 2. 3 and 125 thousandths. Once again, 5 is in the thousandths place, so that's where we go with that. Alright, placing decimals in order. We're going to cover it in a couple slides here, but what I would suggest is turning these all into percents, and that should make it a little bit easier. Place value can get a little confusing, so we're going to order 0.5, 0.05, 0.45, and 0.402, the unofficial names, mind you. We're going to place those in order. Now, just a little prelude, I guess. We're going to turn these into percents by multiplying by 100. Percents all revolve around 100, so to change a decimal to a percent, you multiply by 100. And all that does is it moves our decimal place 2 spots to the right. So 2 spots to the right here would be, let's see, 0.5, we go 1, 2, That's where our decimal is. Add a 0. We would have 50. This is 50%. And use a different color here. 50%. This one, we move it 2 spots to the right. 1, 2. We're at 5%. Move this 2 spots to the right. 1, 2, 45%. This one 2 spots to the right. 1, 2, 40.2%. Alright, now it's a lot easier to see what order we go in. We want to go from smallest to largest. Well, it looks like 5% is our smallest one. Our next one is 40.2%. 45 is next. And 50. So, the one where we start with 0.05, go to 0.402, 0.45, and 0.5. That would be the one we're looking at. Right there. Alright? Also could have turned those into fractions to order them, but that would have taken a little bit longer. Alright. When we name a decimal number, we can actually use that name to turn it into a fraction. For instance, 12 and 25 hundredths is the same as 12 and 25 over 100. Then all we have to do is reduce this to 1/4. Divide by 25, we get 1. Divide by 25, we get 4. Same goes for this one. 125 thousandths. That's 125 over 1,000 and reduces to 1/8. Now that's because this was in the thousandths place, so we put it over 1,000. 25, this 5 was in the hundredths place, so we put it over 100. Alright, so what is 0.85 as a reduced fraction? Well, we read that as 85 hundredths. So we're going to go 85 over 100. And the key here is, as I said, to write it as a reduced fraction. And these numbers end in 5 or 0, so I know that 5 goes into both of them. Divide by 5, divide by 5, we get 17 over 20. So, we should be looking at number 3 right there. Okay. This one, okay. Now, we can take a fraction and we can turn that into a decimal number as well. All we have to do is do the division that's indicated. So, for instance, if we take 3/4 and we want to convert that to a decimal, this actually means 3 divided by 4. Divide 3 by 4. Okay? The weird part about this is that 4 is on the outside, 3 is on the inside. So we need to put our decimal in here, because 4 does not go into 3, it goes in there 0 times. But we do know that 4 goes into 30, and that's 7 times. Make sure you bring that decimal up there. 7 times 4, we get 28. 30 minus 28, we get 2. Drop our 0 down. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract, we get 0. So, 3/4 as a decimal is 0.75. And we did that by actually doing the division. So, this one the students actually had to type in for me. There was no multiple choice. Express 1/8 as a decimal. Well, that's 1 over 8, which is the same thing as 8, or 1 divided by 8. I usually add a few zeros just to be sure. 8 goes into 1 0 times. Bring up our decimal here. 8 goes into 10 once. 1 times 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Drop our 0. 20. 8 goes into 20 twice. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract, we get 4. Drop our 0. 40. 8 goes into 45 times evenly. Subtract here. 0. 0.125, or 125 thousandths. I'm going to check my time quick here. Alright, we're doing okay. So, that is how we go from fraction to decimal. You actually do the division. And once again, I should mention that I do have a poster in my room here that goes over how to do these things. So if the students need a reminder, they can feel free to get up and look at that poster. Also, all this information is in their book. And obviously I'm here as well, so you can ask me questions. Because it gets a little tedious. There's a lot of information here. Alright. This is a little easier if we want to turn, and this is what we did when we ordered those decimals earlier. We turned all those into percents. And we did that by multiplying by 100%, which essentially just moved our decimal over 2 spots. 1, 2, add a 0 there, we get 40%. So 0.4 times 100 gives us 40%. So it says converting decimals to percents shifts the decimal point 2 places to the right. So we just found out that 1/8 was 125 thousandths. Well, let's turn that into a percent. So we know that this number is 1/8. We know that it's also 0.125, and we can also represent it as a percent. And as we know, we're going to multiply by 100. Just moves our decimal over 2 spots. 1, 2. Decimal is now between 2 and the 5. We should be looking at number 1 right here. 12.5%. Just moving our decimal over 2 spots. Alright. Now, if we want to go from percent to decimal, all we have to do is go backwards. So, converting from a percent to a decimal shifts the decimal point 2 places to the left. So this is going backwards. For instance, 35% is 0.35. Now here's the reason. A lot of students forget where the decimal point is if they see a whole number. So remember that 35 can also be written as 35.0. So this actually means if we're going from 35% to a decimal, we're going to go, so if this is percent, as a decimal we're going to move this 1, 2. So boom, it's right here now, 0.35. So just remember that decimal, if you have a whole number, it sits to the right of your number. Okay. So, what is 5% as a decimal? Alright, well, our decimal, remember, will be right here. And we're going from percent to decimal, so we're going 2 spots to the left. 1, 2, add a 0. So we should be looking at 0.05 for an answer. Get my arrow up there. There we go, 0.05. Alright, I'm going to check my time again real quick here, just to be sure. Okay. Real quickly, this is our last example. I'll go over it. We've got 2 options here. Remember, of means to multiply. Now we have 30% of 200. Okay? We have 2 options. Option 1, turn this into a decimal, which if we have a calculator, this would be our fastest route. If we turn this into a decimal, remember, percent to decimal, move our decimal spot over 2 spots. So 0.3 times 200. This would work. Option 2, turn this into a fraction and multiply. That would be 30 over 100 because percents are out of 100 times 200 over 1. So I just put this over 1. You can do that. So if we go through and do all this multiplying, either way we should come up and we should get 60. 60 should be 30% of 200. Alright, so that's the gist of what today was about. We are going to continue with this tomorrow because there's a lot of information, and the homework should be out online tonight.